Oki, Sinatapi, Nistu, Nidaniko, Mokoyo Sakoi, Theta Nubras! It's Native Wellness Institute, Wellness Wednesday. Oh my God, you guys. See how greasy I am? This is Indian oil of Olay. That's why Indians look good the older they get. I coming to you live. We're in a very holy place. We're on the land of Arapahoes. We're on the territory of Shoshone. And from the outsiders, it's called the Wind River Reservation. So today's Power Hour, our topic is how do we leave the door open for our young people to come in and heal? For our native youth, we've got them from 12 years old to 24 years old in the room next to us. They're eating lunch, and I have a special guest speaker. So we just wanted to come to you live because, boy, most of you know how emotional I get about things. When I came into the room, I could actually feel how majestic these young people are from their ancestors. They had George came in with a young man named Daniel, and they cedered us with, I guess, the high cedar. And I had just come from the canyon, Wind River Canyon. And, some of the rock in there is like, I don't know, 300, 600 million years old. And, where you gather medicine, like where the place that you gather medicine, it has more power when it's a holy place rather than, aisle 7 at Walmart. That's not where you gather medicine. So we're at a really holy place. And so I'll just say we've got, I don't know, maybe 100 kids. And I say young people. And some of them are already in committed relationships. We just did an exercise where we asked everyone who was single to walk across the room, and some at that moment decided they were single. And then some kind of went back and then some, wow, it's just so amazing that our young people, they're making these vows at a young age. So today's Power Hour is how do we keep the door open for our young people? And I'm one of the speakers. Chance Rush is here, and we have a whole bunch of trailblazers that are enrolled members of Arapaho and Shoshone. And then we have some outsiders. And I say outsiders because they're people that come to the reservation to work, or they're here, 1 week, eh? And then they go away. No. During Indian days, there's all this good commotion, all this commotion going on. And I go, but in 2 weeks, they'll be gone. So that's just that's a real reservation dog thing. So I have a special guest, and I wanted you to meet our special guest. I guess I know his grandparents, and I know his tribal members. And so without further ado, I'm just going to ask Big Wind if he would introduce himself.
Hithatini na habethin, Hasisi Nichia na Asit na Hinani na Hate Nichi. Hello, relatives. My name is Big Wind Carpenter. I'm a two-spirit member of the Northern Arapaho tribe from the Wind River Reservation, and glad to be on this call.
Well, Big Wind and I, we're always having discussion around healing, and we've connected a couple times, and a couple times we were running through the airport. I was running through the airport with my sister, and we're en route to Pine Ridge. We're going to work with the Pine Ridge Native Wellness Institute is going all over, but with the Pine Ridge people, and there we run into Big Wind. So I was invited here. I just wanted to share with you. I was invited here because Badass Auntie, that was on Reservation Dogs, season 2, episode 5, has been invited to arenas to talk about healthy relationships at every level: healthy sexuality, how do heteros get into a relationship? How do LGBTQ to spirit? What are their relationships different? Is there when you get married? And last year, two women. Oh, I just love these two. They asked me to marry them, and at first I said, "Oh, I have to pray about this," and then I just thought, why not? And they were supposed to get married in Yellowstone, and there was that big flood, and that was right where they were supposed to get married. And so they came up to our country, and they looked around in the mountains, and they found Two Medicine, and they found fresh water, fresh mountain air, and they decided to have the ceremony there. So it's like so then I go and invite Steve Barrios. I said, Steve, these two women, I'm marrying two women. Can you come and give your blessings and help? So he came. Then I talked to Leon Rattler. I said, Leon, I'm marrying two women. Can you come and help? And then I just started asking all my sober friends. Most of my friends are sober. I'm just like, hey, I'm going to be marrying two women. Can you come? It ended up being the most beautiful ceremony in which after they got married, they wanted to jump in the water, the cold glacier water, to seal their vow. They also brought the two girls that they were raising. So then when we got there, I said, well, I have to marry the four of you. Because this isn't just about two people. If you got two other little ones, then the four of you. So then we married the four of them. And we also, it was spontaneous, we asked the young ones to make a vow to keeping the marriage together. So when you get like a 12-year-old like speaking the truth about what they want to see in the home, how it needs to feel, the love, that kind of vow is different. So I just wanted to say that. And Creator is putting me in arenas right now where after this pandemic, everyone's really reevaluating their relationships. So this gathering out here, 12-year-old to 24-year-old, and dang, there's some good-looking kids. I'll post some things on NWI. Oh man, the reverence when George lit that cedar, and they came up to cedar off, and he asked them to step over the cedar, which in the ceremony, and leave everything behind so that your heart and your spirit's open. Man, the dedication. So we'll share that. But I wanted to, so big win. When you guys I know some people have been planning this for 10 months. Some people have been asking, what are we going to do with all the kids during the summer? We've been on some Zooms back and forth. But when you're working with youth, you got to use the F word for flexibility. and not get pushed out of shape about anything, because their energy is just so beautiful and so strong. So Big Win, what can you tell us? What were you guys hoping for, and what's going on here at Fort Washakie High School?
Yeah, well, the original inception of this conference was supposed to happen in 2020, and then the pandemic happened. And so things, I think that inception of the youth conference kind of just fell to like the wayside. Mm-hmm. And then we picked it back up last year. There was a couple discussions that was like, hey, like we should still try to have that youth summit now.
Yeah.
And I, growing up here on the Wind River Reservation, we always had the youth council, and we had every summer, every winter, we had gatherings here at not at the schools, but at the at the community halls.
Yeah.
So we'd have it at Rock Hall, we would have it at Great Plains, we would have it over at Blue Sky, and it would just be like kind of this similar format where you would have people coming in talking about topics that we chose. And so we sent out a few months ago, like, what do you guys want to hear about at this conference? And we got back like a lot of response.
We're still on. Yeah.
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 And the conference is called From Roots to Resilience. And the inception of that idea is that we're not resilient if we're not going back to our culture and our ways and like all of those things that have been taken away from a lot of us. And I think here, even on the Winter Reservation, like I didn't grow up traditional. I had to seek that out for myself. Both of my parents didn't go to sweats or peyote meetings or anything like that, and they didn't speak the language. They didn't know songs. I had to search for those things growing up, and so I think, and I know that I wouldn't be the person I was if I wasn't a part of like those things during the summer. Growing up, like the youth conferences that we used to have, and then being a part of the Wind River Youth Council with a lot of the like organizers of this conference. So we're hoping to like get that back off the ground because it hasn't been active for a few years. But the intention is that there will be youth council here back on the Wind River Reservation.
So tell us who's in the room. Like describe the picture. Who are the adults, or who's in the room over there?
Yeah, there's a lot of tribal programs that are a part of the coordinating of this.
Okay.
And so we have the Wyoming Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault.
Okay.
Their office from here, from the Wind River Reservation. There's Eastern Shoshone Health, Eastern Shoshone Higher Education, and various other programs that kind of came together as a collective to make sure that certain things were being taken care of all around.
Awesome.
The young people are from all the 5 different schools around the area.
Oh, can you name them? Just name them, because like we have some of our friends in Australia and Canada, and they don't know where Wyoming is. So just name the schools.
Yeah. There's Fort Washakie, Wyoming Indians, St. Stephen's, Wind River, and then Lander and Riverton.
Oh, okay. So one of I was visiting with Big Wind. We were everyone's having lunch right now, but we did an exercise. We did several exercises, but they were of trust building because the speakers that came in were speaking about prevention of suicide. And I saw the young people, one of the speakers, boy, their ears just like, when Indian ears just perk up, because he shared a young person who had their first relationship with a different tribe from the outside. And this young person was starting to fall in love with this person or really get to like them. And then they found out they were also having another relationship with someone else. So it's like heartbreaking. And the speaker spoke about, and so we were doing this exercise, and we were calling out self-identity things, like how confidence. When you're confident in your Indianness or confident in your culture, you will become confident in in your career, in your relationships. And so we asked the group, do you speak your language? And what was beautiful is people first they look around at, Indians, we all see what other Indians are going to do. And then, they walk across the room. Then we asked, other questions, other cultural questions, about, do you go to ceremony? We were playing a game called I Like Indians Who. Do you go to powwows? All of these kind of cultural things. So, Big Win, tell us a little bit about how come the Arapahoes and the Shoshones are together here? Should they have 2 separate reservations, or what happened there? Give us a little bit of history, because the history is the healing. And can you tell us about that?
there's different perspectives, and I'm Arapaho, but for us, I feel like as Arapaho people, like we're Algonquin speaking, and so at thousands of years ago, we were in the eastern woodlands, like Nova Scotia, Massachusetts, like Maine area, and we've always been, for a lack of a better term, nomadic. And I don't like using that word because it means like wandering aimlessly, and we weren't doing that. There was intention behind it.
Okay.
And then we've had like a series of prophecies that have allowed us to move different migrations throughout the land. And so there was one called the Great Migration where we moved to where the food grows on the water. We found that in the Great Lakes, with wild rice. And we were there until the 1700s, where another prophecy happened where our people were dying again, and they told us to find where the water flows in 4 directions. And we found that here in Wyoming, and southern Wyoming, where the continental divide is.
Yeah.
And so I would say that, like, as a rapper person, like, our prophecy brought us here. Nayotissa, it's the whirlwind woman. She came to us in multiple times in our history to forewarn us of what's going to happen if we don't do something different. And so I think it's interesting, here on the Wind River Reservation, this is the traditional homelands, and was at one point the Shoshone Reservation. It wasn't called the Wind River.
Oh, okay.
And the Eastern Shoshone and the Northern Arapaho are historically enemies. And so we were warring tribes, and the federal government put us here with intentions that we would kill each other off. And that didn't happen. We just made scads of show rat babies. Yeah. I would say like over half of the people on the Winter Reservation have both Shoshone and Arapaho ancestry. And nearly everybody has family from the other tribe. And so it's definitely interesting dynamics. I think it's oftentimes that was the intention of the federal government, was to put tribes, to try to pit them against each other so that we wouldn't fight them. If we were busy fighting each other, then we wouldn't fight them. And so I just think it's going to be an interesting future when I look at the reservation and the young kids. Like, I do think there's going to be a point in time where everybody should show rap on the Wind River Reservation. I see that in our future as someone from Wind River.
Oh, and so I'm just going to kind of get in this frame and put us both in here. It's interesting when you were saying that, Big Wind, because I was thinking in my life experience, I see that with Navajo and Hopi. I see that with Salish and Kootenai. And I was just thinking, Mandan, Hidatsa, Arikara. But then you said something very interesting, and so that kind of leads us in wellness. What happens if we're 2 tribes? What happens if we're 3 tribes? And that's like an open question. What happens? Because I'm always teasing that I'm going to do my DNA, and on my birth certificate it says 43/64 Blackfeet, and so I always say the rest is Neanderthal. because I like I said, raw kidney and salt, and just there's part of me that is just, people would call it wild, but it's more, I call it just living with nature. Just loving nature and living in. I mean, like I live on a lake, and in the summertime I just put shampoo on top of my head and I jump in the lake, and that's where I bathe. I just I love it. It's just and then I also I go in the lake, and I'm gonna ask you a question about water. I go in the lake, and Muffet Little Dog and Edward Little Dog, that really helped with my healing and wellness when I moved back to the reservation. I would sweat with them like once or twice a week. but she used to sing. Muffet had this calling song, and she had some grandfathers that would come and doctor us. And so I dreamt that song, and we were just talking about this with the young people. When we dream in our language, and we dream a song, or we dream where it's in our language and not English, that's when the ancestors are talking to us. So I always just sing that calling song. And in the four directions, I sing it to the east, and then I dive into deep into the water, and then I come out. Then I sing it to all the four directions, and I dive into the water. And I swear that's what kept me sane during the pandemic. I would just clean off, and I would be renewed, and I was Zooming my 12-step programs, and I had women's talking circle on Zoom. That's what kept me sane. And then I was just saying, how come I didn't, if you look back, and all of you out there in our audience, how we look back over this last 3 years, how did we maintain being okay? So water, big win. This experience, I always come here because I like to go to Thermopolis. And this time it was like profound. It's profound every time. But I had brought some tobacco that came from our thunderpipe ceremony. And I brought some tobacco, and I walked down where the water, just comes up out of the earth. And I put out tobacco, and I asked it for, I said, I'm coming here to Arapaho and Shoshone's territory, and I really want to help with the young people. And can you help me? Can you help me be a conduit? It's like prayers like that. But when I went that evening, because I'd driven 7 hours from Missoula, when I went, I thought I'm going to get in the water. I got in the water, and I lost track of time. I got in the water, then I do jump in the cool water, then I get back in the water, and till it got dark. And I lost track of time. I was bounding my phone, so I just put it under a towel, and it got dark. And then pretty soon I thought, well, I'm kind of getting tired. I should look. Here it was 9:30. So I lost track of time, but I slept like a grizzly bear. I don't know how else to describe it. I curled up. I was so sleepy. I went to sleep, and I just slumbered. And it was that time where I could catch some of my dreams, but I felt like I was traveling while I was sleeping, like I traveled to other places. So, big wind. Tell us about this water here. What is the hot springs, or what are your people's belief? Because boy, I just tell you, it's healing water. So tell us about the water.
Yeah, I mean, Thermopolis is a really beautiful place, and they say it's the world's largest hot spring. And at one point in time, it was a part of the Wind River Reservation. You go through the Wind River Canyon, and then it was in the early 1900s. There was a cession from the reservation. Essentially, white settlers, they just started moving onto the northern part of the reservation, and tried to take over that area. They put up like hotels called like Hotel des Sages and all these like kind of just really funny situations. But that, thank you so much.
We're getting started
out here. And that area, I think, is really, really impactful because it's not just one tribe. It's a confluence of over a dozen tribes that have an affinity with that area. Crow, Cheyenne, Arapaho, Lakota, Shoshone, Ute, Bannock have stories about Thermopolis and bathing there and healing there and doing all of those things. And they say like one of the roles that for that provision when they took over that land is that people would be able to swim there for free. So you can go to the bathhouse and you can swim for free at the bathhouse.
Okay.
But then there are two like ones you can go to pay to get in.
Okay.
But it's a really beautiful, beautiful spot. They have this weird pageant called Gifting of the Waters, where they have this fake story about a Shoshone princess who gifted them the waters. When this is like the town of Thermopolis.
Okay,
like
okay.
The story they tell.
Well, tell us because I was thinking, badass Auntie was gonna put on a mermaid outfit with a bunch of glitter, and I was gonna get in it. No, no, tell us about it because I there's water spirits, but what is that gathering like that?
I don't know. I think it's
Okay.
interesting because the city of Thermopolis has a different story of how they received that town, how they received that land. They like to believe that there was this mythical Shoshone princess that gifted them those lands in the waters of Thermopolis.
Oh, duh.
And it's not true, but they have a pageant every year. It's wild.
Well, what I could say is, and I'll get in the frame. Big Wind, water. I learned this from the Maori. I knew, we have our water ceremonies, a sweet to be the spirit of the water. But when I went and stayed with the elders in New Zealand, or Aotearoa, and I met with the elders that had like the canes, like they're like the matriarchs and the patriarchs. They are the bosses. And one of the things this was like in 2004, they had a teaching that the water, since we're in this climate change or, whatever is happening with us, they said the water knows what to do. And one of the things that they encouraged us to do was like, take a container, could be your water bottle, and take some of the holy water I'm doing that with the Thermopolis water, taking some of that holy water. And then when I go back to the Triple Divide, the glacier water where I live, I put it in the water there. And then I bring water. Like one time I brought even snow from my land. And when I went over to New Zealand, Native Wellness Institute, we all went out and we had a little water ceremony, and it had melted, the snow had melted. I put it in their water, and they said the water spirit. So even, maybe in Thermopolis, we don't know. I mean, it's kind of, white people come up with some goofy crap. Like Columbus discovered America. I mean, like, all of this stuff are, but the water spirits are real.
Yeah.
The water healing power is real. And that was when I was in it. I mean, those of you, just a short, I got this resin, this petrified rock from an elder friend who can't travel anymore from Poland. And this elder friend, he even wanted to go fight at Ukraine because he saw what was happening in Ukraine was just like what happened to them in Poland. But he sent this over. But that was the other thing. When I was in the water the other night, I was in the water and I wore this because it's waterproof. And while I was in there, I was saying, I had to like just connect and ask, for Ukraine. Like, we don't know. In America, they don't tell us the truth. But I know there was grandmas and children just like they murdered us going on, But and I was asking the water, can you please just fortify everyone? Just let them live. Let them compromise, or let them be in a safe place, or if they want an honorable death, to fight till the death. I was like having this, me in the water, and we were just having this conversation. But then it got to, please take care of everybody. Please take care of our people and their people. And then it shifted to, please take care of these young people in this other room. And, so I wore it today, and I know that, water. What else can you tell us about, because what else can you tell us about How else do Arapahoes heal, or any of your historical? How do we begin to heal?
Yeah, I think for me, when I was a kid, I seen a lot of people with unhealthy coping skills, and being from a reservation, and just like there's a certain set of hardships that you just deal with. I think because of the system of being on a reservation, and that comes with. I mean, we have our own historical trauma, like from that we've inherited that comes through our DNA, and then like this trauma that we experience ourselves in this life, and there's all those compounding factors, I think, and there's a lot of, I think, normalization of unhealthy coping skills, and I think that that's how I originally started on my healing journey, was avoiding healing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it was really interesting. I feel like for me, I haven't drank in like 6 years, and
Congratulations.
I appreciate it. Yeah. And one of like a big thing for me in that process, I've always went to purity meetings and sweats. Like I started seeking them out when I was a kid, and trying to learn under like my uncles or my grandpas, or just I was excited, my immediate family, and I feel like growing up that way, and then I feel like as like a teenager, kind of like stopped, started drinking, like all those things,
Yeah.
and like, yeah, that's how I was dealing with the traumas, because that's what I seen modeled in my life, and then in my, I think I went to this one purity meeting, and it was like 7 years ago, and I seen my own death in that purity meeting, and like it freaked me out. I was like mourning my death, all these things, and I wasn't the only one that seen it. This old lady, she told me, she was like, "You can be sad about this, but the future is malleable, and so it's based off of decisions we make today, and then make tomorrow, and then day after that." They're like, what's the future right now might not be the future, in a month, because it's based on those decisions. And me stopping sober, me getting sober and stopping drinking, mean that I needed to like really handle feeling not numb, and like feeling my traumas, and like all of the like facets of pain, and like feeling uncomfortable, like none of the things that we want to feel. And like it was easy when I could just turn it off with something, but it's harder when you have to kind of go through those motions, but learning healthy coping skills in the process. And I think going to purity meetings, going to sweat, I like to, we have Sundance and all of our other ceremonies with fasts and stuff, and I think that like those things keep me sober, and those things also keep me like just reminding what's like actually really important in life, which makes then my priorities are different, and then my wellness is different, and I feel like then I'm in like an active state of healing, not healed, but just healing,
in progress. So what is that, what you're wishing for all of these 100 kids hanging out in this other room? What tell me some of the things you're wishing for. Like you mentioned coping skills. Yesterday, I was Native Wellness Institute. We were doing Zoom all day called "Being an Ally in Indian Country," and I had to take a bubble bath Because I spent so much time during the pandemic, I would take a bubble bath before I got on Zoom. And I thought, that's a coping skill. And you mentioned coping skills. Can you talk more about what are some of the cultural coping skills, or what are we trying to get through to our young people here as an option other than dying young?
Yeah. I think it's also, for me, it's about like going and gathering plant medicines, going and seeing our sacred sites, going and I think a couple of the things like in the pandemic I made my first pair of moccasins.
Oh, wow.
And I know,
Wow.
yeah, and I beaded them and
Oh,
everything.
wow.
And
Okay.
it took so much patience, and I hurt myself so many times, and I had to get advice from everybody, and they didn't fit first, then I had to refit, like, and I think all of
Oh,
those, like, even just that, like the tactile thing,
yeah.
doing hand things with your hands,
Yeah.
like, I learned more about myself while learning to beat my own moccasins, like
Ah.
being patient, like not trying to rush, and like knowing that nothing's perfect. Like you're gonna make mistakes, and you can try again, or you can just leave it. Like I don't know. Sometimes I just left it. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah.
no. Um, and so I just got to get in this frame again. I was thinking, so maybe I'll share some coping skills or what I was, and then you could share some more
Okay.
coping skills. One of, I would just go out into the woods.
Mhm.
And like sometimes I would go out and then on my breaks, but then I just started doing my Zoom work. I worked with essential workers, and we would do one-on-ones, or we would do talking circles, or would do 12-step stuff. And sometimes I just like get a charge, and that's why I'm so accustomed to this iPhone. I would just walk into the woods, and I had my animal, and most of you know I'm grieving because I lost Ocon iron pipe of 16 and a half years. And I'm at a pretty good place with my grief, just that I can talk about it without crying. And that you're healing more when you can talk about it without crying. But my coping skill was, next thing I'd be out there 3 or 4 hours.
Mhm.
And like you said, I gathered medicine because I live in a pharmacy. I even in my front yard is chamomile,
Mm.
and it smells like chamomile. Like when I mowed my lawn, it smells like licorice because they have licorice plants. And then now last year, and I don't know what Creator was doing, but Creator knows best. We didn't have many berries. We
Mm.
didn't have Savis berries, and we didn't have a lot of choke cherries. But this year, we've had all these. I just been praying for the rain. When I go home, I know we can pick berries. So, but then I started gathering horsetail.
Yeah.
I started gathering. We have like rose hips. We dry them. I miniguppy. It's called horse mint. People use it for love medicine, eh? But I that gathering medicine as a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Coming down. The reason I drove and I didn't want to fly because it's just a wild time flying with people all trying to get somewhere or be on vacation. But I got into Wind River Canyon, and I went to a spot that Marcus Red Thunder, he showed me this spot. He said, "Yeah, the four old men come right here." so,
Hmm.
so, so I always, but this time I went to like three different spots, and I
Hmm.
just took my time, and I just clipped a little, because and thanking it for the medicine, and just saying, I'm just going to take a little. I'm not going to hurt you,
Yeah.
and giving it a little kiss. And sorry if I hurt you and I cut your arm off. but so Big Win, tell us more about what kind of medicines or what kind of coping skills because we're gonna head back in there in a little
Mm-hmm.
bit and be with the group. Tell us more about what's going on here because man, you got some good looking kids.
Yeah, I mean, I think our intention is to ensure that these kids feel, or that these young people feel like they have like a support network and are learning like a different skill set and have the resources to be able to like feel empowered in their community. And I had that because of the work that, my mentors have done. So now I'm trying to do the same thing. And I think a part of it is that there is like a mentorship kind of situation where, a lot of us, generation with like me, Leha Spoon Hunter, and, our generation of, it's our turn now to be like those mentors to the youth on the res and being like, you're not alone in this. Like, you're not alone in, like, we've had these problems and there's ways that we can talk about them and try to find solutions for them. And I think one of those ways is trying to ensure that kids on the reservation have access to their culture, have access to the things that we do. And so the workshop I'm doing is called Land is Sacred. And essentially what I'm going to be doing is like talking about different plants that we use in ceremony. And we'll make some choke cherry patties
Oh,
and
yeah,
talk
yeah,
about that and like
yeah,
how that's TEK, and then kind of relate it back to like, these areas, like we need to protect these areas.
yeah,
We need to make sure that these are, that everyone has access, that all of our tribal people have access to them. So just trying to protect those areas for the future.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I'm hearing land back. I'm hearing environmental camps. All of like right now when I trace Yellow Owl, and she's one of our immersion school in 1995. We produced 40 or plus fluent speakers. Jesse DeRozier is one, but they're the fluent speakers now. And but she was out on the land. And one of the things that they did, they had this mud run to so you could feel the land. So it was like this course. And Mariah Gladstone did a lot of photos, but it was the most beautiful because everybody was had to run through the mud. They had to crawl in the mud. They had to be in the mud, and they all just looked so beautiful because they were like, it wasn't like you were posing for Instagram or nothing. It was like they were touching the earth. They were feeling the earth. It was all over their body, the mud. And I remember my grandma, like whenever we'd get a bee sting or we'd get a mosquito bite, she used to take mud and she would like pack it and it would just stop itching, and then it wouldn't hurt. And but that feeling of picking plants. So what else can you tell us about, because you were saying, 6 years you decided to be more connected to the land, that you decided you weren't. I made that decision, but it took me a long time. I think I made that decision when I was, 30. I remember being 30 years old, and my mother had a birthday party for me, and she made strawberry whipped cream cakes. And I remember half my friends were sober and were having children, and then my other half of my friends were trying to take me up in the bathroom and snort some cocaine. You know how you get we all go through that time where half our friends are this way and half our friends, but I knew in my gut, I just knew, just like what you said, if in that Native American church ceremony, that you saw your death. I knew, and I actually had a dream, and it just a quick. I was hungover, and I went to my mom's, crying to her, blaming my boyfriend. Those games we play. And here in my dream, I was sleeping on her couch, which I was, but I woke up inside of a teepee, inside of a lodge, but I was laying there, and I go, oh my God. And I was trying to pretend I was still asleep, but keeping one eye open. And there was all these elders, and they all had like buckskin, but not adorned buckskin.
Yeah.
And they were speaking Blackfoot, and they were discussing if I was worth saving.
Mm.
They were having an ancestor discussion if I was worth saving because of how I was behaving.
Wow.
That is wow. Because I felt so ashamed. I felt like I was disrespecting my ancestors, drinking all that whiskey and snorting all that cocaine.
Yeah.
So that was when I knew the jig was up.
Mm-hmm.
But it took me a few more years of just, I'd try and I would just get in trouble. I'd get a DUI, or I would get in a blackout. I mean, like I got 86 from bars. I don't even know what I did. Beat up people. They beat me up. I beat them up. And then I just got 86, which meant I could never go there again. So I knew I made a decision. And when I made that decision, it was because of that dream.
Mm. Yeah.
So, what do you have to say about that, or dreams, or how we make that decision?
Yeah, I think you kind of have to want it for yourself, you know? That's the biggest thing. And I don't think you can want it for yourself unless you find a reason to live too. Mm-hmm. And like, I think that they work in tandem with each other. And it's like, I understand when people don't feel like they have a reason to live, why they're not doing it for themselves. Mm-hmm. Because there's no motivation there to want that for yourself. And I think for me, like, just breaking this cycle of normalization, you know. Mm-hmm. Shortly after I got sober, my mom got sober, my sisters got, you know, we all stopped drinking, and now none of us drink. And it's like, shows kind of this ripple effect that you can even have on your own family, you know. And I pray for our sobriety, you know, for together. And it's not gonna say that it's not hard. Life's hard in general. Life was hard when I was drinking too, but like life's still hard. I just have different things that I need to do once I'm in that state of mind. I'm like, okay, I need to go dance. I need to go out into, you know, go for a hike, or I need to, you know, do all these different things to get it out of my body. And it feels like that's just the part of that healing journey.
Wow. You know, I'm sitting here, and I don't know why I feel so comfortable. I feel like maybe you and I lived in a different life. Mm-hmm. I feel like you're either my child or my little brother. And so maybe in this remaining minutes that we have, one of the things that I'm becoming aware of is that I was always connected very closely to two-spirit people. Mm-hmm. And then at the 26th annual gathering, I went over to help with the healing, and I talked about two-spirit rites of passage, which it just, that wasn't the plan, but that's what came out of my mouth. And I ended up spending just beautiful days with about 152 spirit that I self-identify. Because when you get there, you have to pick up pins with your pronouns. And so maybe you could say something about pronouns. But so I picked up, but that was kind of, I said, well, my pronouns are she, her, but badass. But then Muffy, at the end of that, Muffy came, you know, Muffy, she's a tribal cop from Pine Ridge, and her wife, Felipa, I spent a lot of time and smudging and being with them. But Muffy came to me and she goes, Theda, are you two-spirit? And then I go, dang, Muffy, no one's ever asked me that. I think I'm 5 or 6. And that was and even now, I said, because like sometimes I feel like I do things like a man, or like I like solitude. I could travel alone and not fearful. But then sometimes I feel like a mother that, when you're breastfeeding or when you're just so protective of things, I feel like I'm nurturing. And then sometimes I'm fluid. I guess what I am is fluid. So I said, well, maybe when I go to the gathering, so August 19, 20, 21, 22 at Flathead Lake is the Two Spirit, the 27th annual. So you're all welcome to come. And I'm going to go over there because last year I just had the best time I was in a safe environment where you could just be who you needed to be. And I want to, and here we're at this youth summit. I feel like we're just starting to create that space. We're just for these young people here, and some of them, they're just finding. I mean, when you're 14 years old, how you're looking for yourself. Even when I was 21 years old, you're looking for yourself. So we're just gonna. So Big Win, what can you tell us as a native Two Spirit or a native healing? Give us some like a summary of what's important to look at when you're healing.
Yeah. I think community is definitely a part of it, and I think there's a lot of this, like, the dominant culture always focuses on self-care, and it's like a big, it's a hashtag, self-care and like all these things, but I think coming from like a community, or coming from my community, when they say it takes a village, it does. And I wasn't just raised by my parents. Like, I was raised by so many people, took a part in where I am, And so I feel like here on the reservation, it's important that we have like gathering places for all these types of, people. And so here at this summit, like, we're going to have LGBTQ support, just trying to support even maybe things that aren't a part of the dominant society, but spaces that need to be created so that people can feel safe, so that people can feel supported, and so people can start healing. And I don't think that we can do it alone. I don't think we can heal alone. I think a part of us has to want it, and we have to meet Creator halfway. But there's a part of like the unknown that has to take place, and that happens outside of us. It doesn't happen. There's like certain people, certain things, certain places that we need to be in or experience or talk to for us to process those things, because it's not like this. It's not linear. Healing's not linear. It's a cyclical kind of thing. You go through these motions where you're like, maybe you're good 1 week, and then you're fine for like a whole month, but then something happens, you're triggered, and you're back. Step one, something happened, and I've been there before where I thought, like, oh, okay, I'm past this, in my head, and then something, years later triggers me, and then I'm back in that kind of like mindset, and it's easier to work your way out of it after you've been through it before. But just trying to find like, I think those pillars in your community that you can go to talk to. And so I'm glad that like we have counselors here for the young people throughout the days. I'm glad that we have like both of the drug and alcohol prevention programs here with youth prevention, so they can talk about how are we preventing suicide, how are we creating a healthy community, and then having Joya Natsu with their talking circles. I think that that's going to be really important too, so that those kids can be able to share in a format the things that they're going through in this community. And so creating a container like that where it's meeting different types of people's needs,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
while being this like amoeba of some sort, I think is really important for Indigenous youth.
Mm. And I like that concept of that amoeba, that. So I just have one more question. Is we're screening a film, and like this morning, I have this is the shirt from Blackfeet Community College, because we have so many missing and murdered people. And Sovereign Bodies Institute has a database, but we're going to be watching a film. I haven't seen it, and I'm really excited because I'm inviting my friends that I haven't seen. I said, come over and watch this film with us.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about this film that we're going to watch tonight?
Yeah, so it's called Who She Is, and part of it's animation, and it follows the stories of 4 women from the Wind River Reservation, and 3 of the stories are being told from family members for people who've already passed on.
Oh,
wow.
wow.
And they kind of like animate their story throughout their life, what happened, and then how, if this situation has been remediated, if it was solved, what have you. And I mean, we know it's an epidemic that's happening all over Turtle Island in the world, where Indigenous women, die at or are missing at a higher rate than disproportionate rates, anyways. And I think one thing that this film does is it has local people. There was a local director, Jordan Dresser, who was also our former chairman.
Oh, yeah.
And so he'll be at the panel speaking, and there'll be Abby Washke is there as well, who's the granddaughter of one of the stories that's being told. So to have
beautiful.
those, I think the intention behind the film was to make sure that this issue that's happening everywhere was localized, because we know everyone on the reservation knows somebody who's passed on, or been murdered, or is missing. Every family has a story, but to be able to have it illustrated, and so that people can talk about it and have that dialogue, I think is really important.
God, animation. So we're gonna sign off. Thank you,
Yeah.
Big Wind, and thank you. We call her Cass. Cass has just been on me, like where are you and where are you staying, and and I'm so fluid. I just show up. I go, I'm here. But we're gonna go join our colleagues. We have Eastern Shoshone recovery program, and we have some really good counselors in the other room. And so thank you, Big Win, for coming on Wellness Wednesday. And I see Stephen. All right, Stephen. I just saw a couple of the names. I don't respond because we just have like an hour. It's really good to. But if you want to Google, say the name of the film and the director again.
Who She Is. And it's by Caldera Productions. The director is Jordan Dresser.
Okay. And so we're going to screen that with all the kids and the families that are in it tonight. And we'll maybe talk about it next Wednesday. But so without further ado, we really appreciate all of you who look for inspiration. Native Wellness Institute, we're on Wellness Wednesday. And we'll continue until you say, shut up. No. Shut the hell up, Theda. No. But we just say Kitakito Matsuno and Kitsikakomen from both of our hearts, so that we love you very much.